The off-season is over, and with the new season around the corner, it's time to reflect on the Toronto Raptors' most successful season ever. Although months have passed, the Raptors' 2018-2019 season is still fresh in the memory of Toronto sports fans. The Raptors finally snatched the NBA Holy Grail, the Larry O'Brien Trophy, and brought it home to a success-starved city to show off to throngs of jubilant fans, new and old alike. To the long-suffering old guard of Raptors fandom, the championship seemed like a dream. What had seemed unobtainable to this once hopeless franchise had finally arrived and was being hoisted in double-decker buses down University Avenue to Nathan Phillips Square. Mere weeks after being crowned NBA champs, the news broke that the best player ever to don a Raptors jersey, Kawhi Leonard, was heading LA-ward to join the Clippers. His plan to head home to California threw a wet blanket on the championship fever that had swept the city, and instantly shifted the tone of the offseason from one of celebration to one of confusion and disappointment. With all of that said, I think if you were to tell the average Raptors fan at the beginning of the season everything that transpired in 2019, they would take what happened 10 times out of 10. Championships do not happen often, and one player, no matter how important, shouldn't ruin an otherwise perfect season. Kawhi's departure, along with starting shooting guard Danny Green, is going to shake up the offense from last season. How, you may ask? Well, let's take a look. Kawhi averaged around 19 shot attempts per game and a total of 7.1 free throw attempts per game, which averages out to around 22 possessions a game. Danny Green, on the other hand, took 8 shots per game and also had 0.6 free throw attempts, which works out to around 8 possessions a game. Together, Danny and Kawhi used around 30 of the Raptors' 100 possessions per game. To find out who's going to be using those 30 possessions, let's take a look at the Raptors' projected roster for the upcoming season. Returning to the fold are Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Norman Powell, as well as reserve guard Patrick McCaw and backup big man Chris Boucher. New to the team are Stanley Johnson, a forward who has spent most of his career with the Pistons, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, a power forward from the Nets, Matt Thomas, a free agent sharpshooting guard from Europe, Terrence Davis, an undrafted combo guard from the University of Mississippi, Cameron Payne, a point guard who has bounced around the league, Raptors' second-round draft pick center, Juwan Hernandez, and 2 additional undrafted forwards, Devin Robinson and Sagaba Konate. Robinson and Konate were probably signed to play for the Raptors' G League team, the 905. Juwan Hernandez, I believe, will spend most of the season with the 905 as well. And I don't foresee Cameron Payne getting many minutes based on his performance in the league to date. Eliminating these players gives us my projected starting lineup and minutes distribution for the upcoming season. With no surprise, Kyle Lowry will be the starting point guard for the Raptors. With Danny Green's departure, Norman Powell will step into the starting lineup and play a bigger role, likely getting a lot of the same shot opportunities that Danny received. I believe that Pascal Siakam will start at the small forward position this season, taking over for Kawhi, which leaves Serge Ibaka starting at the power forward spot and Marc Gasol starting at center, a combination we saw a bit in the playoffs. The other 2 players I see receiving significant minutes are 6th man Fred VanVleet playing both guard positions off the bench, and OG Anunoby playing backup forward, but still receiving a pretty big role. Pascal will play minutes at power forward when OG comes in, and Serge Ibaka will play center when Marc Gasol is off the floor. The remaining minutes will be mopped up by the third stringers, who will be given a shot to stick with the team and carve out a spot in the rotation. The starting lineup and team personnel has changed, but the most interesting change was outlined by head coach Nick Nurse in an interview with Yahoo Sports.
Let's talk Pascal Siakam. Okay. What do you feel like is the next step in his growth, in terms of, I think it's sort of been reported that you might be thinking of putting him at small forward occasionally.
No.
We saw it obviously in the Sixers series. Sort of what's like the benefit of going smaller with him or going bigger with him potentially? Because
Yeah,
both ways.
It's a work in process yet. I just think that he's good enough to play both positions. He really can play anywhere. I wouldn't be surprised if we almost make him like a point forward where he'll handle the ball a lot up the floor.
When Coach Nurse talks about making Siakam a point forward, I assume that means there will be more plays run for Pascal with him as the primary ball handler in the pick and roll. Being the ball handler in this play wasn't very common for him last season, making up only about 5.5% of his total possessions. But Synergy Sports had him in the top 97% in efficiency with this play, so there's a lot of potential for him in this role. Here are some highlights showing what Siakam is capable of while being the primary ball handler. Here, Siakam initiates a pick and roll with Marc Gasol, and his defender decides to go under the screen. Neither his man nor Gasol's comes out to help, so he steps into a long two-point shot, which he hits. This play is a side out of bounds, where Siakam gets the ball back and initiates the pick and roll with Ibaka. Ibaka slips the screen, pulling his man into the paint, allowing Siakam to go one-on-one with his undersized defender. And he scores, utilizing his excellent speed and length driving to the hoop. This next play is a play I've seen utilized a lot by the Milwaukee Bucks to get Giannis Antetokounmpo easy baskets in transition. The Raptors set a screen for Siakam in transition, which gives him a free lane to the basket before the defense has fully set itself up. I expect this play to be run quite a bit this coming season, as Siakam is supremely talented on the fast break, and Coach Nurse mentioned he wanted to see Siakam bring the ball up the court more often. In this play, Siakam receives the ball off a pin down and starts the pick and roll with Ibaka at the top of the arc. The pick puts Siakam's defender behind him, and the big is too deep in the paint to contest Siakam's easy runner. This is an interesting play because in it, Siakam is the ball handler and Lowry sets the pick. The defense is forced to switch Lowry's defender, Kemba Walker, onto Siakam. Fearing Siakam attacking the very undersized Kemba, the defense collapses, and Siakam passes it out to a wide-open Kawhi, who declines the shot. The last play I'll show of Siakam is another where he brings the ball up the court in a semi-fast break situation. He again receives a pick from a guard, this time Danny Green, which frees him up to attack the basket. Center Nikola Vucevic is too far from the basket to provide help, and the weak side defender gets stuck in no man's land trying to cut off the penetration, and Siakam is able to find a wide-open Fred VanVleet in the corner. Before we discuss Marc Gasol's role this season, let's hear what Coach Nurse has to say.
Gasol, we got to get some more usage out of.
Yeah, for
Again,
sure.
with his role with the team was kind of to be a facilitator. We need him to score a little bit more.
Discussing Gasol's impact as a scorer is a bit tricky, as he hasn't been very efficient either here or in Memphis the past few seasons. That said, if the Raptors are aiming to give him more touches, we should still take a look at Gasol's scoring repertoire. Here, Marc establishes deep post position against his defender and attempts a drop step to the baseline, which is cut off. Gasol manages to recover and spins for a right-handed hook shot over his left shoulder. In this play, Marc is the trailer on the break and receives the ball in the mid-post. The Raptors clear out the strong side to give Gasol more room to operate, and he begins to back down his man. Nene offers up some resistance, so Marc opts to settle for a turnaround jump shot, which he drains. This nifty play starts with Kawhi at the top of the arc, and Lowry receiving a pin down from Gasol. The pin down frees Lowry to receive the pass and gets Gasol in deep post position to receive the pass from Lowry. Marc begins to work on his defender, who overplays Gasol's left. Gasol decides to go left anyway and scores with a right-handed hook. This next play highlights one of Marc's biggest strengths on offense, his ability to stretch the floor. Siakam receives a pass in a semi-fast break situation, and the opposing center comes over to provide help on the mismatch. Gasol is left wide open at the three-point line, Siakam makes the correct read, and Marc drains the shot. The following play is something we'll probably see a lot of this season. Lowry and Gasol execute a textbook ball screen, where Lowry's man is left trailing, and the defending big drops low to contain Lowry's penetration. As a result, Gasol is left open for a mid-range jumper that he easily converts. Another player who I think is set to have a big season is sixth man Fred VanVleet. VanVleet had a spectacular end to the postseason, with numerous season-saving performances and clutch shots, and my expectation coming into this season is that Fred will play an expanded role with more minutes and shot opportunities. Fred's role in this offense is twofold. The first is to be the team's point guard when Kyle Lowry is off the floor, and the second is to play alongside Lowry as the team's backup shooting guard. We're going to take a look at what Fred VanVleet is able to do in both roles, starting with his playmaking abilities as the pick-and-roll ball handler. In this clip, Fred begins a ball screen action with Marc Gasol, and much like Lowry in one of the earlier clips, is able to find Gasol in the mid-range. The help defense rotates under the basket to stop penetration, and Gasol is able to find Siakam in the corner for an uncontested three. This play illustrates Fred's quickness with the ball in his hands, as he is able to use the screen from Siakam to attack the paint. He manages to get by his man as well as Siakam's, forcing an additional rotation from the weak side, which leaves Ibaka wide open in the corner. Fred makes the pass, and Ibaka knocks down the open shot. Here, Fred VanVleet brings the ball up the floor and calls for a screen from Ibaka. Fred's defender gets caught on the screen for a split second, and once he catches up, VanVleet recognizes he's being guarded by two players, and finds Ibaka in his favorite spot for an open mid-range jump shot. This play, I think, showcases Fred's playmaking knowledge. Notice how he rejects the screen from Ibaka at first and moves further out. He then calls for the screen again and initiates the pick and roll closer to the top of the arc. As a result, Ibaka is now standing at the three-point line when Fred VanVleet kicks it out after drawing two defenders, and Ibaka hits the open jumper. Playing off the ball is one of Fred's strengths as a guard. He is one of the better catch-and-shoot guards in the league, and I don't think anything illustrates that better than his incredible performance in Game 6 of last year's finals. So for your viewing pleasure, let's look at Fred VanVleet's most impressive catch-and-shoot moments in that game. Playing off the ball involves patience and shot readiness, and Fred illustrates both of these qualities here as he lurks on the weak side ready to shoot. And when the pass does arrive from Gasol, he gets the shot up quickly and splashes it right in Steph Curry's face. Here the Raptors try to do a bit too much on a fast break with Siakam, and end up almost turning the ball over. The scramble helps the Raptors though, as the ball makes its way to a wide open Kyle Lowry, who feeds the hot hand, an even more wide open VanVleet, who drains the three. This next play is a good example of what Fred's role will be as the off-ball guard. He passes the ball to Lowry, who initiates the pick and roll with Gasol. Lowry splits the double team with a pass to Gasol, who in turn draws a help defender trying to cut off penetration. As a result, Gasol finds the open Fred VanVleet, who hesitates, but still manages to hit a contested three over Curry. The last play in this video isn't Fred in an off-ball situation, but it's one of the clutchest shots in Raptors history, and this is my video, so I'm going to show it anyway. Here Fred calls for the pick from Siakam, and the pick gets VanVleet's defender Quinn Cook playing catch-up, so much so that he sprints past VanVleet, who stops and pops it at the three-point line. His clutch three would give the Raptors a lead they would not relinquish, and the rest is history. For the last segment of this video, we'll discuss how I believe the Raptors will perform this season. Nate Silver's stat-based sports and politics site, 538, gives the Raptors an 85% chance of making the playoffs and predicts a record of 44 wins and 38 losses. ESPN's own predictions estimate that the Raptors will win 45 games and finish 6th in the Eastern Conference. As for myself, I'm a bit more bullish on the Raptors' chances. The defense that took them to the finals may be missing some crucial cogs, but I believe it will still be very formidable. And veteran NBA teams, which the Raptors certainly are, find ways of winning games that they otherwise shouldn't. That said, I am aware of the deficiencies of the Raptors roster. Lowry is another year older, as is Marc Gasol, and the Raptors just parted ways with arguably the best player in the league without much other than internal development to replace him. Taking all of that into account, I predict that the Raptors will win 47 games and be right in the mix for first-round home court advantage. I still think that it's a bit early to predict how this team will fare in the playoffs, but I am confident that the Raptors will make it to the postseason. And from there, who knows? Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please take the time to like the video and subscribe for more Raptors content.